Hey guys, I hope everything's going good. I'm here making a video for you to hopefully make this explanation go a little bit better for you. So anyway, hopefully things are going good with Mr. Cribbs and everything y'all need is being taken care of. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be solving quadratics by graphing with the calculator. So to solve a quadratic, we need to discuss what that means a little bit. That means to find where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So this is also the same concept as finding a quadratic's roots, zeros, or x-intercepts. So all of these words, roots, zeros, solutions, x-intercepts, they all mean the same thing. Okay, so if you're told to solve a quadratic, if you're told to find the quadratic solutions, all of these things just mean where does it cross the x-axis. So a parabola can cross once, right here, and that would have one real root. It could cross twice, and that would have two real roots. Or it could cross 0 times, and this would be no real roots. It actually crosses at 2 imaginary roots, but we'll get into a little more of that later. So remember, since we are finding the x-intercept, what is y's value here? If it's the x-intercept, what will y be? Y is going to be 0. Now, quadratics can be solved so many different ways. We're only going to study a few of them. Algebraically, they can be solved by factoring, square root method, and quadratic formula. Now, these two y'all are going to do while I'm gone. And quadratic formula I'll do with you whenever I come back. There's other ways to solve quadratics, but we're not going to go into it. We're just going to do these right here. Graphically would be to actually look at a picture of the graph and see what the points are. So graphically, you're looking at the picture. To find what these values are. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to do that, because we are going to use our calculator. Let's turn over to the next page. Now, all of your steps are on this page, but they're going to seem a little confusing until we do the process. However, I'm still going to read them, and I'm going to tell you what the really important parts are. So step 1. You first need to make sure your quadratic is an ax squared plus bx plus c. So if it's not solved for y, you need to solve it for y. Then you're going to put the quadratic and y equals in your calculator. So you'll press y equals. And then type in the equation. Remember to use x, the x button for the x. And also, say you have something like this. 2x squared minus x plus 4. Whenever you do the minus right here, make sure you do a minus sign and not a negative, or your quadratic parabola will look different than everyone else's. So make sure if you're doing a minus sign here or here, you actually do a minus sign. The only place the negative key would go is right here in the beginning before the 2. Okay, so that's just a little side note. Then you're going to press graph. This is going to allow us to see a picture. This will allow us to see how many roots we're looking for. That's important to kind of orient yourself and just kind of get an idea of what you're trying to do. Now, this process, 4 through 6, needs to be repeated for every 0, okay? So you have to do this for each 0. So you may have to do this up to 2 times. Okay, but you can't do it just once if you have 2 zeros. So you're going to press second, trace, which is calculate, then select option 2, which is 0. Now the calculator is going to ask you left bound, and it's going to give you this little blinky cursor. It wants you to go to the left of whatever 0 you're working with, but the problem is whenever you're looking at a parabola, and your zero's right here, if I tell you to go to the left of the 0, it feels more like up and down. So try to think of it corresponding to the x-axis. If I want to be to the left of it, of this 0 right here, I would be over here. And then you'll press enter. And anywhere over here for your blinky cursor is fine. And after you press enter, it's going to give you this little arrow. Then you want to be somewhere over here for right bound. But you cannot cross the other 0. And press enter again, it's going to give you another little arrow. You cannot cross the other 0. Only one at a time. And only one can be in this boundary you set. Because what's happening is with these arrows, it's kind of giving your calculator a place to compute where the 0 is found. You're giving it, why it says bound is it wants a boundary. Okay, so even though it says left, remember you got to think more of up and down terms and how it corresponds to the x-axis. And then for the right bound, same thing, you need to think about how it's corresponding to the x-axis. So after you've set your 2 boundaries, it's going to ask you guess at the bottom of your screen, and press enter one more time. And then it's going to tell you what your x value is by saying x equals, and it'll place it down here, and y equals 0 or something very close to 0. But then you'll need to do that again for this one over here. Okay, so let's take a look here. Now, I've made a diagram to give you an idea of your left and right bounds. I think it makes it maybe a little bit easier. So, if my parabola looks like this, and it doesn't matter where the y-axis is, that's pretty irrelevant. So if I'm calculating this first 0, my left bound is somewhere over here, and my right bound is somewhere in here. But it does not cross over the other 0. Whenever I'm doing my second 0, my left bound would be somewhere throughout here, and my right bound would be somewhere throughout here. That's where these regions are telling you where to press enter on your blinky cursor. Over here, if I were to want to do left bound, or do my left 0 first, left bound would be somewhere over here, right bound would be somewhere over here. Then, if I do my second 0, left bound somewhere over here, right bound somewhere over here. Remember, don't cross the other 0. See how it's kind of left kind of corresponds more to the x-axis. It's to the left. If I were to drop down, it's to the left of this 0. If I only have one 0, it makes it even easier. Left is over here, right's over here. Here's one flip down. Left will be over here, right's over here. Okay, so hopefully that diagram is going to help you a little bit. So let's go through it on our calculator. My first one is y equals 3x squared plus 4x plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to start out by pressing y equals. And I'm going to put in 3x squared plus 4x plus 2. Now I want to press graph to look. And if you look real close, it's not crossing at all. It doesn't cross the x-axis. This one's easy. We love these. No real roots. Okay, so now let's take a look at the B one. So I'm going to clear out whatever function I have in y equals, and I'm going to put in y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2. Make sure you do a minus and not a negative. Okay, I'm going to press second and graph. I'm sorry, no, just graph. And take a look. Okay, this crosses, but it's going to be kind of hard to deal with, so let's zoom in on it. Press zoom, and number 2 for zoom in. And it's going to give me a blinky cursor. And I want to bring it over to where the vertex is, and press enter. It gives me a much clearer picture of what I'm working with. So now, let's go back to our steps and calculate our zeros. So we'll press second, trace, which is calculate, and select option 2, which is 0. So it's asking me left bound. So left bound would be anywhere over here if I'm trying to find this x-intercept, or 0, right here. This is what I want to find first. So I'm going to take my blinky cursor, and you have to use your left and right buttons, and anywhere in that area over here, anywhere is fine. I mean, you could do it up here, you could do it down here, and press enter once. And then it asks me right bound. That's going to be somewhere down here, but I do not want to cross the other x-intercept. So I'm going to press my right bound over here, and press enter one more time. And there's my arrows showing up, showing my boundaries, and in between these two boundaries is my x-intercept. Okay, then it's asking me guess. Press enter one more time. It tells me my 0 is 1. So that's one of them, x equals 1. Now I'm going to do this process again for this 0 over here. So I'm going to press second, trace, which is calculate, and go down to 0. It asks me left bound. Now left bound is going to be somewhere over here. Right bound will be somewhere up here. Okay, so left, right. That's an R. Press enter. Now I've got my two boundaries made, my two arrows. Press enter one more time after guess. And it tells me my other one is x equals 2. So this is my answer for B. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'm going to let you do one on your own. We're going to do the second example. It tells me to find the zeros. You see the first one told us to find the solutions, but that's all the same thing. So I'm going to plug this into y equals. I'm going to go a little faster on this one. Press first press graph and take a look. Oh, look, our graph still looks like it did last time. Press zoom. 6 for standard. There we go. Now it looks normal. Okay, so I'm looking for two different zeros. I've got one here and one here. So I need to find both of them, but I need to do it one at a time. So I'm going to press second, trace, which is calculate, down to 0. It asks me left bound. I'm going to do this 0 first, so my left bound will be over here. Okay, I'm going to press enter right there. My right bound will be somewhere up here. Press enter. Enter one more time. I'm going to get a decimal. X equals negative 2.28. So that's my first one. Now I'm going to calculate this 0. And press second, trace, which is calculate. Down to 0. Left bound will be somewhere over here. Enter. Now I'll go to right bound, somewhere over here. Enter one more time. Negative 0.22, because I rounded the 9 up. Okay, let's get this one set up for B, and then I'll let you do it on your own. So I'm going to plug in 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. Let's take a look at the graph. Okay, so that's pretty hard to look at, so we should probably zoom in on it. So zoom in, and take your blinky cursor to your vertex. Still pretty hard to look at. Oh yeah, I wanted y'all to change this one. Okay, make this a zoom in one more time. Okay, it does go. Okay, so just zoom in twice on it and get real close in on it. Okay, so now, why don't you pause and try it on your own. Okay, so I'm going to press second, calc, which is trace, and go to 0. I'm going to do this one first, the one on the left. So my left bound will be over here. Press enter. My right bound will be down here. Press enter one more time. Negative 0.3333, that is negative 1/3. Now I want to calculate the other one. Second, trace, go down to 0. Left bound will now be down here. Press enter. Right bound will be somewhere up here. Press enter. Enter one more time. And your other 0 is 0.5 or 1/2. Okay, so before we move on to the next one, let's get our graphing screen back to normal. So we'll press zoom and go down to 6 for standard. And now let's put this one in right here, y equals x squared minus 2x plus 3. First, take a look at your graph. That does not hit the x-axis, so this will be no real roots. So we get to move on to the next one. We love the ones like that. So go back to y equals, and put this function in, 2x squared plus 5x minus 1. Okay, now let's pause, and y'all do it on your own from start to finish. We're going to press graph to take a look at it. This one's going to be pretty straightforward. So press second, calc, 0. My left bound, calculating this 0 first. My left bound is anywhere up here. Press enter. Right bound will be anywhere here without crossing any other zero. Press enter. Press enter one more time. And I'll have x equals negative 2.69 for this zero. Now let's calculate the other one. Left bound is somewhere down here. Enter. Right bound somewhere over here. Enter. Point 1.9. Okay. Now y'all do this one here on your own. Okay, so I'm going to press second trace, which is calculate, 2 for 0. This one doesn't hit. Okay, y'all do this one on your own now. Plug it into y equals. Second trace, which is calculate. Go down to 0. It hits twice. My left bound somewhere over here for this first 0 right here, so enter. Right bound somewhere down here, press enter again, enter one more time. X equals 1. Now I need to calculate this one. Second trace, 2 for 0. Left bound will be somewhere down here. Right bound will be somewhere to the right. This one, negative 1e to the negative 12, that's basically 0, so just it's 0. So x equals 1 and 4. Okay, you're going to do the last two on your own, and if you have trouble with them, talk amongst your colleagues. Once you have checked both answers and that they are correct with Mr. Cribbs, you can get your homework. So I need you to do those correctly first. Hope everything's going okay and y'all aren't having too much trouble. I miss y'all a bunch, and I will see you soon.